Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business Spotlight, the podcast where we shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and business owners in our community. I'm your host, Craig Whipperman with Music City Action Coach, and today we're excited to introduce to you someone who is blazing a trail in strategic marketing and video production. On every episode of the Business Spotlight podcast, we explore the personal journeys behind the businesses that are shaping our local landscape, and today is no exception. We're sitting down with Craig Ballin, who is a co-founder of Adspire Creative Group. We'll dive into Craig's entrepreneurial journey, explore the challenges he's faced, and the successes he's celebrated. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, an aspiring business owner, or simply someone who loves to support local businesses, this conversation is sure to inspire and inform. So without further ado, we'll say welcome to Craig. Craig, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Craig.
Yeah. Well, you got one thing going for you. You got an awesome first name, dude.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, like I said, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and how you got to Adspire, and just kind of give us a general overview.
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I think people always go through the LinkedIn bio is what I say, the elevator
Hmm.
pitch.
Yeah.
Uh, Running Adspire Creative Group. Adspire Creative Group focuses in on video marketing. So if we know anything about marketing and know anything about video, both are extremely in sync with one another. And what we focus is when a client comes to us or potential client, we basically look at their brand, look at their strategy or current strategy, if it exists. And because we specialize in video, we look at, can we utilize video in all social media channels, from television, from social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and do we feel like we can give them a tick up on their revenue, on their intake? And if so, we give them a strategy, a plan, and we take it from there. We don't take on everybody, and some people we say, we don't believe this would really help or be conducive to your goals or your target audience. So that's Adspire in a nutshell. We found ourselves helping a ton of nonprofits.
Hmm.
We've won quite a bit of tele awards for nonprofit ad campaigns and commercials that we've done, from national campaigns, to global campaigns, to
Hmm.
local campaigns, from human trafficking, breast cancer, to suicide awareness. So that's one passion. I kind of came from a long line of documentaries. Uh, and so storytelling is something I'm passionate about. And if I can do a story that actually makes a difference or an impact to make somebody's life better, that's kind of where I really find my purpose and my passion.
That's awesome. So I have a question, but I've got another question I want to ask you. There was another company prior to this one that you had also co-founded, right?
Correct. Mhm.
Yeah. And so, was that a stepping stone to this one? Was that?
It was. To me, everything is a stepping stone.
Mm.
And it's funny, as I've made friends with a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners. What I find and what I tell other people and pass on is, very rarely is your first business going to be the success. And one of my buddies joking, and I don't push this on everybody, but he's like, yeah, it's kind of like marriage, right? You got to get that first one out of the way. I was like, I laughed. It was pretty hilarious. But at the same time, I'm looking at statistics. I'm like, you might
Yeah.
be on something. But yeah, so everything's a stepping stone, and I think everything is a learning process.
Hmm.
And so this has pushed me into a good path to, I guess, pursue and so far be successful with Adspire.
Yeah. Awesome. So, documentaries and storytelling a part of Adspire now? Is that your approach to marketing a client, or how do you guys, how do you, I guess my question is your history, how does the history in your creating documentaries and storytelling, how does that apply to what it is you do for a client?
Yeah, great question. So, I think a lot of times people open and start filming a documentary with you have to be loose in knowing, not knowing your
Mhm.
findings. You have a story to tell, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to end or where it's going to go. And for me, the best results of a documentary are seeing people being able to be fluid. And if you need to pivot, you need a detour during the story, do so. Don't force it. And I think whether it's marketing and video creation, it's the same thing. A lot of times we say, here's our strategy, here's where we believe we want to go, and here's what we can say about your company, your business. But again, we live in a world where we get real-time feedback from customers, from clients. You put some stuff out there on Instagram, you start running ads on Google, you're going to get real-time feedback.
Mhm.
So whether you had this plan, you always have to be willing to pivot. We film in a way that we are able to always pivot without reshooting. So we have multiple avenues we can go down, and we have usually all the footage, the different questions to go down different paths.
Interesting. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you might put on a campaign that is not necessarily hitting the mark. Am I interpreting that? And then the pivot might mean, well, okay, so we've got to make some adjustments here based on some feedback to improve the reception of the material. Is that right?
100%. And that goes in so many different ways.
Hmm.
I mean, not even just changing out some of the footage, but let's just say we're changing out the music. Let's say, we thought our target audience was, and we always ask, we make business owners create an avatar, and business owners love to say, well, my perfect target audience client is 20 to 30 years old. And for us, we go, no, 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 no. I want a specific avatar. Give me his, her name, describe them. If you have to, bet your business on the next person that's going to purchase from you, I want to know who that person is. So we can laser in on what our ad should look like, whether it's, the font we use, the colors, the music, the type of cuts we're using. And if we see that, wow, here's this variable we didn't think of, and we're getting a lot of results from this over here, um, we believe we should be actually maybe kind of pushing towards this audience and pushing this type of message. We know we heard this from you. We even thought this too. But what we're seeing is, here's low-hanging fruit that we didn't even know about and we're ignoring. Let's
Hmm.
go after this.
Yeah. So then how do you guys go about marketing your services? How do you get clients?
Like every marketing agency, uh, we're awful. It's fun. It's funny. We've been very fortunate, that we've been busy. And what I always tell people, and here's me telling on myself, is you don't ever want to wait until you have to market. If you
Hmm.
wait until you have to be marketing, you waited too long. Uh,
Hmm.
I also am like I'm a triathlete. I'm an ultra marathoner, and an Ironman. It's the same thing what I tell people who are doing like a long ultra distant race. If you wait until you need fuel, you waited too long. You can't recover. And I believe that in business and economics, if you wait until you're financially dire need and needing to succeed, a lot of times I tell people, we are not the right company for you. Like if you're
Hmm.
coming because you need sales or the doors are closing, you pretty much waited too long.
Hmm.
Wish them well, but I'm not gonna, take that client on.
Yeah. 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 And so, so you said, of course, the one word or the phrase, we're terrible. We're terrible at marketing. Is that right?
We don't market ourselves as much as we should. That's
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. They I love the analogy. As soon as you get on an airplane, they say, put on the mask on who first?
Right.
You,
Right.
right? But we have a habit of paying attention to everybody else. And marketing, I think most agencies fall under that same brick, and we're guilty, 100% guilty. We are constantly putting out so much content for our clients, and we're not putting the mask over ourselves. So completely guilty of that. But
Yeah.
we just don't do as much as we need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. So, circling back a little bit to the documentary and storytelling. So I would imagine you're a Ken Burns fan.
Ken Burns, it's not ringing.
Oh wow! So Ken Burns, he does those. I just heard the other day he has like 65, I think, documentaries on like little slices of American history. He did
Hmm.
well, and the Civil War is not a little slice. It's like this monstrosity, right? And then he did one on baseball, and he did one on jazz, and he's done one on the Roosevelts, and I've seen just this very he does it on PBS, and
Okay.
he's a storyteller, and pretty well recognized for that. But he does some very awesome things, and it's mostly with still photographs. And you can imagine the Civil War, there was no moving pictures, but and that was done way back in the 90s. But
I need to
he,
check that out then. I mean, the name does sound, ring a bell, but I'd have to see the work, and then once seeing it, I'd be like, oh, maybe I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got so much that he's produced that I'm sure you would be intrigued by watching it because it's extremely informative, very entertaining to watch, and it piques your curiosity. So it's just fantastic. But anyway, so documentaries. How did you get into doing documentaries? How did you find that as something you enjoyed?
I think really it was just filmmaking in general.
Ah,
So definitely did not go to school for filmmaking. My parents never thought that was a real job. So
mhm,
it was my brother is a doctor. I was more or less supposed to be pathed out for an attorney. Uh, Communications was my degree, mass communications. Um, and I think for me, I always had a passion though, holding the camera, and to me, even looking at old family vacation videos, there's not a lot of me in them because even at a little age, I was the one running around with the big old VHS camera, filming my dad, probably annoying him, filming my brother. Um, but yeah, I just always had a interest and a passion, and I always thought it was something so cool that you can capture, um, these moments of life, put them out there, but capturing them, it's forever,
mhm. Yeah, cool.
I think
So,
about.
so tell me then, how long have you been in business with Adspire? How long has it
Um,
been in business?
let's, let's see, 6 years.
6? Okay.
So, yep, six
And
years.
what's the outlook? What's the outlook for Adspire? What are your goals for the next year to 5 years?
So year to 5 years. I'd say year, survive as in, you're drinking from a fire hydrant sometimes, and you're
Hmm.
just like, you get so exhausted. I would say within year, just get the right help. That's the key is, finding the right help. One thing I've learned is, um, knowing what you should be doing, as the owner, knowing what you should be passing on. Time is everything, and there's a million things that, um, I should not be putting my hands on and should be passing off. And that's a very hard thing. Um, but that's something I've learned. So next year is more or less continue nurturing the help that I have, and hopefully finding some more help. My BHAG, would be, I think there's a good avenue for keeping agencies small, but if you look, it seems like, and I've seen this progress in different areas. As soon as HD came out, film cameras were $80,000, $100,000. So high quality creation was out of reach. Then HD came out, and any Joe Schmo could go buy an HD camera from Best Buy,
Mhm.
for a few $1,000 and create amazing footage. It leveled the game to an extent where it was hard to say, here's what my price is. I think marketing agencies are the same way. Any
Mhm.
Joe Schmo can call themselves a marketing agency. Any Joe Schmo, can get some followers and then say they're an expert in marketing. I think a lot of business owners, small business owners especially, just see, okay, they have 100,000 followers, they must know what they're doing, and they jump in on that. And I think there's there's probably a good spot for having I lack of better word, basically a franchise style marketing company. And that's what I would love. There's a ton of tiny agencies in every single city. Very few are probably uh, doing it well, but to streamline it and create a hub where they can be an affiliate, or a partner to a bigger conglomerate parent company. To me, I think that's low hanging, and it's needed. If it's not me, somebody's going to be doing it.
Mhm.
I would love to see Adspire be the one that does it.
Mhm. So there are surely there are digital marketing services that are franchised out there, right?
Not really. No,
Huh.
it's such a weird industry. Think of, I mean, there's think of y'all's lawn company, your lawn
Mhm.
care company, right? You would think there should be a lawn care company, and there are a few, but that are probably like just a middleman. They don't actually do anything. They just take the intake call and then they pass it on to a random independent person that
Mhm.
pays the fee to say, let me be on your Rolodex and give me a price. That's it, and I think there is that for marketing and in that industry, but it's kind of untapped when it comes to actually a franchisee style type of or partnership. So um, I see a ton of different types of marketing companies trying to do this middleman
Mhm.
thing, but it's not an ownership, it's not a partnership. And I think that's where it's the quality, and that's where I think it always falls apart. People always come to me and say, hey, um, you know, there's Video Husky, and that's probably the wrong name, but it's something Husky, Video Husky, where I can pay, you know, $100 and get unlimited edits per month. And I'm like, all right, well, one, they're farming it out to, Philippines, India, somewhere like that. And it sounds good, but good luck with that and good luck with the editing.
Mhm.
Uh, and again, I think, my dad once told me, a cheap man always pays twice.
Yeah.
And it took me a long, long time, and I still have problems with that sometimes. I'm like, ugh, but you do pay for what you get.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And when we take shortcuts, so I think that franchise long run, is the part is giving ownership and making sure everybody is responsible for having their ownership of, whether it's like, say, Nashville, and I'm protecting this little area. And then I have another, hub that's protected by a sole person that's already been on the ground, say in Little Rock and, Austin, Texas, and Houston. Chattanooga. So that's where I would love to see.
Yeah. That's a great vision, man. That's a great thing to aspire to. Um, it's certainly doable, you know?
It is. I mean, because right now, again, you as an entrepreneur, we know it's lonely. It becomes
Yeah.
lonely, and
Right.
it's, sometimes you're drinking from both ends. You're trying to manage employees, you're trying to manage clients, and you're getting beat down by taxes, by fees, software fees, especially in production, go through the roof.
Mhm.
So if you can partner up with somebody that says, hey, we take care of your marketing, we take care of the intakes, we take care of insurance, we take care of billing, huge. That would be
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely doable. So then, Craig, tell me if I were a client and I had a business, um, and I came to you, I would imagine there's probably a list of questions that you would ask me. What is it you'd want to know um, about me, and what is it you would expect for my marketing program to be at once I have consumed your services? What's the full spectrum?
it depends on what some people want, right? So if you're like, and number one thing that I try to do is, I state what is your goal? Everybody's like, well, I want more calls, I want more sales. Okay, right. So overall, this quarter, over the year, like, and what is this increase? Are you trying to 10x? Are you trying to, increase? How much are you trying to? Is it realistic? Um, and then I ask about the history. What are you currently doing? How is it doing? Are you happy with that? But a lot of times we do get into numbers.
Mhm.
If we're looking at a retainer of marketing and video, we look at what you're actually bringing in per month, and eh, that's what really helps us say and see whether that person's has a realistic a goal. So it's basically a soft business evaluation that we do.
Mhm.
But at like even before that, on an initial call, it's what do you do? I really don't like the question, but I always ask, is how are you different from others? It's one of those things I hear over and over, and I say it's an important question, but I don't like asking it, is because rarely is there a good answer.
Mhm.
Rarely is there a good answer. Um, it, and that shows me a lot of times you don't really know how what you're doing different for your customer.
Mhm.
Everybody gives the same answer, oh, well, we do this, we do that special, we're family owned. Nobody cares. Like what truly makes you different? And the bottom line, the thing is, it's okay if you're not different, right? And I put it on the sense of like, that's like asking your wife or somebody's spouse, you know and deep down, it's the relationship individually is what matters.
Mhm.
The relationship, and just because this client and this one person, me, aren't jiving, we might not be the right fit, does not mean they're a bad business owner, does not mean I'm the wrong, I'm a bad agency. I'm just not the right agency for them. And I think relationships are important. And I think that's the main thing is, you know, can I service you and can we get along and get through things together? Can I give you the right feedback? Can you take the right feedback? And again, my personality might not jive with this personality, and that's fine. We just might not be on the same level to work together.
Right.
So that would be one of mine. And the other one I already said was the avatar. I always ask people who their avatar is. And I generally try to make them walk through and create an avatar.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not, we don't, that's really good for, honing in on and getting everybody to envision what their ideal customer looks like so that you can, target and focus. We don't, I don't, I'm not aware of anyone who, introduces the avatar type from a coaching perspective, but knowing your target audience is very important. And then knowing how you're unique, how you differentiate. And you're right. No one has a good answer. You have to help people, develop that, differentiation so that, you have to deliver top-notch service, like, way over the top, white glove service so that people want to work with you and are willing to pay, the higher price than farming something out overseas, so that they feel like they're part of a community or a program just because they're, one of your customers. I mean, that's essentially what we, the theory and the methodology that we coach to, and try and get clients to. So it's not, what you're describing is not unlike coaching, to be honest with you, because they have to want to do it, and you have to be able to work with them, you know.
Absolutely. And again, like to me, that's where, again, it's no hard feelings. Some of the people that I've explained, again, it's like marriage or dating.
Yeah.
You go on a million dates, but just because y'all aren't going on that second date or you don't marry every single person you went on a date doesn't mean they're a bad person. Y'all just were not the right fit. I think it's extremely important to find the right fit. You as the salesperson, I think, it's your job to be authentic and find the client that you can be yourself with. I think it's very important. A lot of people, I always recall George W. Bush. No matter what, if you met the guy, you'd be like, this is a guy I can have a beer with. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you just felt like this is a guy like I could be in a bar, have a beer with, and it's just and have an easy conversation.
Mhm.
And I think, for a lot of people, he was a good salesperson. No matter what, like one on one, it was very hard not to like him, and
Mhm.
I think his document did a great job of capturing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bush 41 and Bill Clinton, both I remember partnering together when that tidal wave, that earthquake, remember that in Thailand? When was that, man? In the early
Tsunami.
2000s, right?
Yeah. It was a big tsunami, right?
Yeah, big tsunami. Yeah, 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 yeah. Right. And I remember, both of those folks are, very quote likable people, especially one to one. A lot of people say the same thing about both of them, but I found that I don't know, when you said that and likable people, it made me think about, oh yeah, a lot of people say the same thing about Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And then I remembered they were both together, and when I first saw them together doing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, those guys are on the opposite end of the political spectrum. But at least they, to your point, right, to another point you're making, they can work together,
Yep.
and do something that brings, some relief to people. And so they both agreed that that was the thing to do. But anyway, I'm kind of babbling on here, but so so you were sharing with me before we went live, your decision to quit college. And it's, what, it's not unlike a lot of entrepreneurs who want to venture out on their own. I know many people who were in the family business and they wanted to go out on their own. Not unlike what you shared, by, not necessarily following the path that your parents had for you. And then as well, you were telling me about your book that you've got coming out that chronicles your journey to kind of find yourself while you were in that space. Share with our listeners some of that history and how did you make the decision to end up leaving college to your parents' dismay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so quick ending of that. I did return to college. I had promised, and I'm usually really good on if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I let my parents know, let me get this out of my system. I will finish. I ended up finishing, graduating. It was to my surprise with honors, magna cum laude, and on dean's list and everything. It was amazing when you go to class you learned. It was something I didn't even know. Craig, I was so bad at school. I would show up and we would have an exam, and I had no idea there was an exam that day. I was just like, so it was a whole new thing when I went back and I treated it like a job, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is fun. But going back to that, yeah, I think my first round, I was, you know, a lot of stuff had happened, I think, during my upbringing, high school years, and you know, I partied a lot, and I found alcohol to I guess numb a lot of feelings that
Mhm.
were trying to come up. And as adults, as humans, we bury a lot of us bury things, and I found alcohol was the easiest way to numb things and bury things. Going into college, the drinking continues. It's super easy to drink in college.
Mhm.
So it really happened at a particular frat party. There was a barber chair. People were doing shots. You put your head back on the old style barber chair, and you chug, have an open bottle just going down your mouth, and then it'd spin you around. There's electronic bull over in another area, but I remember I had just finished the barber chair spin around, and everybody cheering and stuff, and I was thinking like I didn't want another drink. I was sick. I wasn't sick from spinning or drinking. I was like just like looking around, and it was just a weird, call it epiphany or something. I just
Yeah.
moments in of I didn't really I loved my friends around me, but I didn't really want to be who I was becoming. Um, I, you know, I had a girlfriend at the time, was cheating on her, was just drinking, not making the grades. I was a spoiled brat in a sense of I looked around, I was like, some people would die to go to college. And here I am taking for granted that I have college paid for me. Here I am just going through these motions. And I felt it would be easy enough for me to continue going through college, continue drinking, continue getting a degree in something I don't even know what, but I would have gotten a degree because that's what they do. They just pump you through. GPA would have been awful, but and then I would have gotten a job and life would have gone on. I probably would have continued drinking. Um, and I think at one moment during that, I just stopped and I said, I don't want to be this person. And, uh, not to get like too cliche, but, something just kind of just said, um, leave. And I was like, leave. And I was like, and it's like, leave. And in my head, I was like, I need to travel. I need to travel right now. And that's the name of my book, Travel Now. And when that set in, um, I did a lot of negotiation with myself, saying, "Well, I'll go after college. I'll go after the semester." And every single time, the voice was like, "Nope, no, like now." And we'll make excuses with ourselves. We'll barter with ourselves. We'll bargain, especially when we don't want to do something. It's amazing, and that's what I was doing. And finally, like that, I was just there was no negotiation. It was now, and I followed that. I went. I didn't tell anyone at all until about a week out of my flight. I did some research. I bought, a backpack, nickel and dimed the stuff that I was going to take out there. and I bought a one-way ticket to Europe. And I finally told my parents the week before, after they had been hounding me whether I got all my courses and had signed up. Did I get in? Did I get everything I needed? Finally let them know, no, I didn't. And I'm not returning to school. I'm actually going to be leaving. Leaving where? I'm like, the country. They're like, what? So I realized, I found out in my head, I was like, telling them a week out was probably too long still. I should have waited like a day, because that gave them a week of just hounding me. But ultimately, once I got over there, and I think like the emails I started sending them, they realized uh, what I was doing. And I think they really started, I guess, encouraging me, appreciating, respecting, giving me room. And I think they really saw, a different person was coming out. And again, I would say I was changing. I was blossoming. I was just don't. I think we are who we are from the beginning. We can wear different masks, and I think growing up, very hard, especially if we stay in the same town where we grew up with. Um, if you're a cheerleader, you stay in that town. If you're a football player, if you're a goth, a bully, whatever, it's very hard to get rid of those stigmas, those stains that we have
Mhm.
and that are on us. And unfortunately, at such an age when, you know, we didn't know who we were, but now we're fulfilling these because that's what society sees us as. You're the cheerleaders. We end up we end up fulfilling those roles. And it's amazing what people expect of us. A lot of times we change and conform to what they expect and want from us. And it's very unfortunate. I think here in America, we have a lot of mental health issues,
Mhm.
a lot right now. We see it every day, unfortunately, and it's awful what we see in school going on. And I think it's going to get worse if we don't really address and become, and there's so many people that don't want to get in touch with the emotions and get soft and stuff like that. But um, what's ultimately going to happen is it's going to get worse if we don't. And
Mhm.
bottom line is, for me, I left, went to Europe, and for the first time, it was like freedom. I could go anywhere, nobody knew me, and it just felt like I could breathe. I didn't have to be cool. I didn't have to try to be anything. I could just be myself. And it was the most freeing experience. And ultimately, coming from a time where I really didn't know who I was, um, I started, one, finding out, loved myself. Two, I am a good guy. It's the weirdest thing to think that, but I was like, okay, I am good. Going through these processes, going through complete strangers, going through different countries and meeting random people, helping people, saving it, some people, you know, and not even speaking the language. It's amazing. And also at the same time, realizing, you know, a lot of people had said the same thing. Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, it's this, it's that. And you know, not once did somebody hear I was an American and treat me bad.
Mhm.
And I was told that over and over, they hate Americans, they hate this. People, again, I think it's how we approach life, how we approach people. I did see some, you know, Americans over in Europe, portraying what Europe would say, the loud, obnoxious Americans acting like they own the place. Nobody would want that, right? But
Yeah.
it's how you portray yourself. Not once. So did I get that? But I also was respectful. and listen to people, listen to their stories. And one of the people I really like Anthony Bourdain, I loved a lot of his storytelling,
Hmm.
and love some of his quotes. And it's like, he invites you to go to a pub, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, have a beer with a complete stranger that you see opposite, views with, and celebrate. And to me, that's something I experienced, and it's like, that is really cool, because only then can you actually get the other side and the other perspective.
Yeah, right. And so how long you were over in Europe for a year?
It was right under a year. I always say a year, but it was like right at like 10 months.
Right. And so you came back now with a lot clearer, a lot more clear understanding of your identity, who you were. Is that a safe statement? And
I think we're always evolving. I think
yeah.
I think I came back with more confidence of um
Mm,
who I was, and more confidence of who I wanted to still become, and how to become that person.
mm,
But yeah, a lot of more confidence of like, one, we can evolve, we can adapt, um, and there's just so much potential within us. And man, staying in the same scenario really drowns out a lot of our inner voice. Uh,
hmm.
we put out ourselves in different environments, we get to hear who we are.
Yeah, yeah, right. And you mentioned earlier about the and your whole experience that you described happened, I'm assuming, uh prior to the internet explosion with Facebook in the late '07 or the knots, huh?
Yeah,
It was probably earlier.
you're dating me there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm dating myself, but so it seems like, to your point, it's even exacerbated now. It's even worse now, more challenging for kids going through that. And by the way, I wanted to tell you, we were just talking about Ken Burns. He's got another documentary he did on childhood mental health. Just what we're talking about. It's called In Plain Sight, I think is the name of the documentary. But that's probably worth watching too, because it's right on this point. And it's you know what? I think it's a major health challenge that will only be more and more realized the farther we go, because each generation is growing up with this, you go, can you go out to eat and not see a family with two kids watching their iPads? Because, it's like, ugh, yeah, that's an easy thing to do, but I'm not sure that's the right thing to do, you know?
It's easy, for
Yeah.
sure. It's the easy thing to do.
Yeah. And I don't know. So I agree with you there. Um, and everything you shared about your experience is a part of the book that you're about to release, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like in depth, day to day, of the travel. And you mentioned, is before the internet, was so explosive, and social media. There was no Facebook, there was no even MySpace, there was no Instagram. And I'm glad. I
Hmm.
am glad. I think, now these kids go and travel, and they're still, their thing is, let me post, let me capture to share. I was over there, and it's just one of those things, experiencing without, sharing.
Hmm.
It was just, I'm not doing this so I can post a photo of it. I wasn't doing this so I could, make sure I looked cool.
Hmm.
And it's sad to see, some of these people who are traveling just to do so.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I still travel. I'm usually, my personal goal is being out of the country at least once a year,
Yeah.
uh, at a minimum. And so I still see it, going to Thailand, and you're seeing these kids just constantly filming themselves and
Yeah.
posting and stuff. You're like, man, just enjoy the moment.
Right.
Get off
Right.
your.
Right. Well, and you know what? That's your whole experience and figuring yourself out. It's when we're coaching business owners, it's as much a mindset thing as it is the tactics of managing a business. You know what I mean? And understanding them having an understanding what they want out of life. What is it you want out of life, independent of anything else? What are your hopes, dreams, desires, and goals? And then start working on becoming that person who, whatever it is, who ultimately has those things, and then start working on a plan so that you can grow into your goals. And it's similar to what it is you've shared, kind of with yourself.
I
And
love that. And that's almost like, and I don't think people do that enough, is like reverse engineer,
yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah,
process.
yeah, yeah. So, so I got one last question for you. In your role of uh, entrepreneur, business owner, CEO, what's the biggest challenge that you've faced in that role as a leader over the companies that you've had?
Um, Biggest challenges.
Or
For
biggest,
different businesses, um, I would say my biggest challenges I would say there's probably two things. One, it's always both are related to relationships.
Mhm,
Uh, One is the relationship with partners. I had a software company, and it was a lot of potential. Um, and, I always thought, you know, have a yin and yang in a relationship, and it's good. And I think there is a lot of that is necessary so y'all can balance each other. But you also have to make sure there's a level of respect, let's call it maturity, that both sides have. So I think that's one thing I learned is if you're going to get in bed with somebody, make sure you know them,
mhm.
make sure you can trust them. And when it comes down to it, just like going into a marriage,
Yes.
everybody said the same till death do us part. But we have a 50% or less than 50% success rate.
Mhm,
So words are cheap, very cheap. We can say till death do us part, but the second, things happen, 50% say, never mind, I'm out. Same thing, I think, with businesses. If you're going to get in bed with somebody, make sure you know them, make sure you can trust them. And I think that's the big thing. Really ask and dive deep. I think when it comes to employees, um, I think it's really very similar. Making sure they can take feedback and making sure that they're wanting to grow. Um, you know, some people hire and say, you know what, this is the person that is going to fill this role, this need for now, and that's all I need them for. To me, um, I'm gonna forget his name. We were doing a session with LinkedIn VP of marketing. Oh my goodness. Um, it was very interesting. He kind of room full of CEOs, and he basically was asking questions, and you had the CEOs raising their hands, and it's just like, how many people are having a hard time hiring people? Many people have a hard time retaining people. Um, and it came down to, um, the relationships and trust. And a lot of hands were starting to go down when it's like, what type of relationship do you have with your employees? What type of trust do you have with your employees? What do you want for them? And what he was getting at was, one, don't, if your employee, don't hire somebody and think or want them to stick around forever. That's a stagnant person. You don't want that person on your team. You want to grow, you should be hiring for somebody that has ambition to grow as well. That's what I look for. That's one of the things I've learned. And that's one thing that took me a long time to learn, is finding people that are just as hungry as I am. Finding people that I'm okay and I don't take it personal when they say, "Hey, I got another offer," and I'm like, "Hey, I can't match that. Go for it." And me being okay with that, it's not personal. And the biggest thing, one of the biggest things the CEO can do, a business owner can do, is keep in touch with that person,
Mhm.
encourage them, cheer them on. There's so much. It's so hard to find good people. When you find them, stay in contact with them, stay in a relationship with them, and that's one of the biggest things I've learned, is relationships. Whether it's an employee or a business owner, relationships are everything.
Yeah, no question, no question. That it comes down to relationships and relationship management and trust in the right people, finding the right people, and learning who they are at their core. It's kind of a challenging thing to do through an interview process, but essential that you find out as much as you can. And you're right about, partnering in a business. It's as hey man, it's as much a marriage as anything else, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, you have to have confidence in the ability to work together at an absolute minimum, and how much can you, because you're expecting to trust them as you're expecting they will trust you as much as it is that you trust them, and if it's not there, it's not going to work. But
100%.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Craig, it's been a great conversation, man. I really appreciate you sharing all of your history, and good luck on your book, man. I think it's going to be a good seller. Even though you shared with me earlier, don't write it. You got advice. Don't write a book to make money. Maybe, maybe yours might have a chance of making a little money.
Hey, I appreciate it. And thank you, Craig. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, great. All right.